Hey there, welcome to Lunar Lunch Break. I am Evelyn Rose. If you haven't been here before, this is one of my Witchy Tarot AMA Q&A sessions. It's kind of like my office hours. So anybody who comes in with questions, I am always happy to answer them. Just make sure to drop those questions in the chat. I also usually have a running list of questions from different things people have sent to me via email, social, or just seeing me around town in person. So if I don't have any questions in the chat, I usually go off of those. But anything that comes through the chat, I will prioritize. Typically, people just let me kind of go down the list, and that's fine as well. But as always, if you have a question, I'd much rather answer it while you're here in person. Uh, again, I do these live streams weekly, 1 p.m. Eastern time here in the US. Uh, and that's basically it in a nutshell. Questions typically deal with spirituality, tarot, obviously, um, modern witchcraft, just pretty much any of those things. The nuances of living as spiritual people in this world today, all the joy and the fun that comes with that. I do want to apologize to those of you last Monday. I was having the tech issues with the audio. We've been troubleshooting live on the air. Thought I had it resolved. Turns out I somehow had a double mic situation going on. So when you go back to listen to the replay, it sounds a little weird, and that is because the audio, there were two mics going at the same time. With the one, oh, this one obviously right near my mouth, and the other one I believe was the one off the camera, which is a couple feet away from me. So definitely still check it out. There were some really good questions and answers. I didn't want to pull that video because there was still good content and there is audio, unlike my cases where I was muted the whole time. So it still came out all right, but I do want to apologize because I know that was awkward, and I definitely totally 100% understand for those of you who popped in and then like heard the double audio and popped right back out. I also struggle with that at times. If you're like me and you speed up videos, it's a little easier to bear when it's sped up. And so if you want to still check it out, or if there was a question that was answered last week, by all means, still go back to it. Um, just forewarning that the audio is doubled on there. So as always, tons of things going on in the world, in our personal lives, all the things. So just trying to hang in there. I know it was definitely an odd weekend, little mix of things that were upsetting. So such as the earthquakes, particularly in Venezuela, um, and a few other world events, definitely some close to my heart, some a little bit more obscure to me, but I know no matter what is going on in the world, all of us still have our own personal lives. And so, me continuing doing these office hours is my way of trying to help bring you guys a little bit of joy and a little bit of hope in this world, that there is more to it than just the big things that try to break our joy. So they say that rest is a form of protest, if you will. Like so is joy and hope. Those are the things that in oppressive systems that they try to shove down. They don't want you to have joy unless it's in the things they tell you you're allowed to have joy in. So when you just have your own, gathering your own knowledge, learning, and making yourself bigger and brighter in the world, that always is the best way to dismantle oppressive systems. So that's part of why I do what I do. Um, I know it seems a little odd that this is, for some people, that this is what I do, and that I think that this is my big world changing thing. And that's true for almost all of us in every position that we're in. I've worked across many different industries, had the pleasure of working with various specialties that are definitely heroes, whether that's in health, mental health, education, um, emergency services, military, all of it. And every little thing makes a difference, because especially for those who are doing those roles, it's the supportive roles around them that enable them to be able to do what they do. And so to me, that's my biggest thing. So if you're ever curious why there's some of us where, despite all the things going on in the world and all the things that are needed, why we focus on these skills that seem, um, I guess you could say, either, I guess, redundant in some cases or minimal in some ways. It's not that they're minimal. They're those support roles that without them, all the people doing the bigger, deeper work crumble without. So, so again, it's every one of us does our own thing. So if you're out there in the trenches, if you will, whether literal or figurative, um, there are those of us who are here to ready to support you and stand with you, and that's what I do here. All right. So some things to go over so I don't forget. So for those of you from my Messages in the Moonlight community on Discord, there is less than no, there's less than oh, it just changed from 30 to 29. There are 29 hours, so little more than a day left to vote in the poll to determine the fate the uh of the Discord server. I am looking to potentially delete the server. Um, Currently there are 56 members of that server. I know not everybody that's a member is still actively on Discord, but some of you definitely are. Like at this moment, at least looks like there's at least 7 of you within Messages in the Moonlight server who are currently online out of those 56, and that's just right this moment in real time. So I want to make sure that I give you guys the opportunity to let me know if you feel like the server is worth keeping. So far in that poll, there is a split, a 50-50 split of keeping the channel and deleting the channel. That's only based off of 2 votes. So if you don't vote, then if it stays at 50-50, I'm going to go with deleting the server. So if you want to keep the server around, please make sure to vote in that poll. Otherwise, it will get deleted. I'll try to send out a reminder when we hit the 24-hour mark for anybody that's in there, so you don't miss out on that. Let's see. Okay, so that was one big thing to go over. I know I am forgetting things. There were other big things. I'm gonna pop over to here real quick. Um, oh, there you go. That's what it was. So I know last weekend the tarot readings at the Little Treasure Shop was closed unexpectedly for Sunday, so unfortunately was not able to provide readings. If you showed up and were hoping on a reading, I am sorry. By all means, please, if you know that you're going to come in on a particular day, if you're thinking about coming in on a particular day, um, because you want to get a tarot reading, make sure to use that uh, the in shop booking link. So my Zcal link is usually in the show notes. Use that link to find the in shop tarot readings. That one will let you book for days where I actually have people scheduled. If there's ever an unexpected closure, like there was this past Sunday, or just yesterday, uh, if you're scheduled with me, then I can reach out to you and let you know. If you're not scheduled with me, I have no way of reaching out to you. On that note, when you do book, please make sure that you are entering the correct email address. I have had people put in an incorrect email address, and then I have no way to reach out to let you know details that you need, or the reminder email that comes out automatically the day before won't reach you if you don't have the correct email address in there. So please make sure whenever you're booking, whether that's with me or anybody else, always make sure you're using the correct contact information so that we can get hold of you if things change unexpectedly. Um, what else? The next tarot appearance is going to be the Liberty Day and fireworks here in Newark. I will be one of the vendors over at the Bob Carpenter Center, or just outside of the Bob Carpenter Center, where they usually have different vendors set up. This year they'll have vendors, a whole bunch of vendors, like kind of set up almost like a C shape or a U shape, depending on which way you're looking at it. Uh, um, kind of like facing the stage area a little bit, and then off to the side in one of the parking lots will be all the food vendors set up. So I'll be over with the main vendors doing my tarot readings. I'll be on the, what would that be? Would that be the northern side? I want to say it's the northern side. Oh my goodness, I really should have pulled up the full map. I'm trying to do this off the top of my head based on the directions it was facing. But anyway, so we're gonna not pretend like I tried to ignore my difficulties with being directionally challenged. If I know if I'm standing there, I can look and I can work out the directions. But me trying to do it off of a map and trying to twist the map around in my head, it's like a funhouse mirror and it goes all kinds of wonky. Next thing you know, we're not facing any of those directions. We're like looking up or down. And it gets really weird. So don't rely on my brain for mind maps, quite literally. So that'll be for the 4th of July fireworks. So originally they were saying it would be from 6 to 10. So that's what I had on my upcoming events page. They did adjust it to 6 to 9. I think that's so that there would be that leeway. There's also the potential for rain, the rain date, of course, being the 5th, which, of course, there's also potential for rain that day. So definitely make sure that you stay up to date, either through the city of Newark if you're going there for that, or if you follow me, my upcoming events page on the website is the best place for finding that information. Um, any other details I need to go through? Oh, one last thing. I will be wrapping this session up right at 2 p.m. I do have an online training that I'm going to be doing. I talk sometimes, particularly through the blog, I talk about the ASI, the Association for Spiritual Integrity. So it's for spiritual leaders, healers, and teachers like myself, where we come together and we abide by a certain level of ethics and ethical practice in our spiritual work. And one of the perks of being a member of this is not only because it's an awesome, any sort of ethics or integrity related organization is always awesome to be part of. But one of the perks is that we do get to regularly attend or be part of uh, different training to keep up to date on ethical practices within our field. So um, there's a training coming up today that I'll be doing right after this session. So I will be wrapping up right at 2 p.m. So if you ask a question in chat toward the end and run out of time, I will just add it to my list and get to it next week. Um, that said, let me remember for anybody who comes in. There we go. All right. So you should see it popping up in your chat. Pop your questions in the chat to have them answered live. One of these days I will remember to write that instruction out, so I just copy and paste. It'll be a little faster. One of these days I'll get that right. All of this said, let's go ahead and dive in because we're already almost 15 minutes into the session. I did go through, I was smart today and I went through my list of my questions. We're still going through the long list that popped up on me suddenly after the whole military religious designation fiasco. I still have several of those questions. But there were a few questions that I wanted to mark for today just because they're all kind of on a similar topic that I thought was really interesting. So we're going to start with these and then go from there. Again, if any questions come into the chat, I will prioritize those. Okay, so the first question that I was asked was, how do you feel about AI generated tarot readings? Are they a tool or are they a threat? So for that second piece of the question, if you're saying like, would an AI generated tarot reading be a tool or a threat? Well, the AI itself is a tool. So by extension, anything that the AI does for you that you have prompted it to do would be like effectively the use of a tool. It's kind of like if I have a screwdriver and I use that screwdriver to screw in a literal screw to screw pieces of wood together, then that is a tool doing the thing it's meant to do. In the case of AI generated tarot readings, it's kind of more like I use that screwdriver and I needed to open a plastic packaging. And so I kind of use the tip of the screwdriver to help me rip open the packaging. Um, was it still a tool? Yes. Is that what the tool was designed for? No. But could you still use it for that? Sure. Right? If it was effective for you, it's a tool. It's fine. Um, so I'd probably say on that second part, probably more leaning toward the tool. In terms of threats, I'm not entirely sure in the context that you meant. Like, if you mean like as a tarot reader, am I scared that AI generated tarot readings are going to disrupt my business as a tarot reader? No. AI cannot do what legitimate tarot readers do. Whether you use the term psychic, intuitive, whatever terms you want to use to describe what it is that the tarot readers do, they are skills that AI cannot do. And especially because my personal style and approach to tarot is face to face, in person, and I am blending my own personal experiences from medicine, healthcare, psychology, military, federal service, teaching and education, all parenthood, all these things. So I have these very specific sets. So which means that the clients who come and see me generally there's something within my skill set and within my way of seeing things and knowledge base um, that is going to resonate with them more than they would go to another reader. Like if somebody comes to me, gets a reading from me, doesn't really resonate, they may go to another reader and it resonates with them. With the AI generated readings, there's nothing to resonate with. It's just calculating. It's just putting together interpretations, and you can do just basic interpretation with cards, and that's fine. But authentic tarot readings from an experienced tarot reader are going to have that human element that the AI simply does not currently possess. And I say currently because who knows what AI will look like 1,000 years from now. So I'm not going to try to predict that far into the future. I have watched the rate and speed of technological evolution accelerate massively in my lifetime alone. So, I mean, I remember when I was a teenager and they were quizzing people who had just turned 100, what they thought like was the best invention, and they were like indoor plumbing and like that. I remember that boggling my mind. Like there wasn't indoor plumbing 100 years ago. And the answer at the time was no, there wasn't. So meanwhile, I have watched it go from like, fighting with the metal hanger in the back of the TV to try to get a signal to like now we can stream whatever we want whenever we want, from anywhere with internet that doesn't even have to be plugged into any devices. It can just be Wi-Fi through the air. Like, oh my God, what is this? So massive rates of technological advancement. So who knows what AI will look like in the future? So I say currently, AI cannot do what actual tarot readers do. So on the tool versus threat, there's no threat there. If there is any sort of threat, it would be in the context of somebody taking that as gospel and living by whatever the AI tarot reading says and getting themselves into a whole lot of trouble or making some really dangerous decisions based on it. That would be the threat. But even then, for my understanding, based on people who have tinkered around with AI for doing tarot readings, like I've had discussion on tarot topics with AI just out of curiosity. But I've never actually tried to get AI to give me a tarot reading. And I usually, all those tarot reading like apps that have been out forever that like draw a card digitally, like digital readings, I'm like, I know too much about how technology and software works. And trust me, if you're downloading a free app or you're playing with a free tool that's built into a website, like those cards aren't randomized at all. Like there's because you can't. You have like it's expensive to get anything that truly randomizes any sort of numbers in any way. So I know a little too much. So for me, I'm like, it's so bogus that just you can't. Those are not real readings, not in terms of tarot anyway. Not to say you can't use them for some form of divination, but it's not. It is not the same, and the only way I can explain that is if you put in the years of effort learning these practices and then go back to the technology and compare the two, and they are not the same experiences at all. Um, so that would be the only way that I could see the AI generated tarot readings being a threat is if you follow that like it's gospel, like it's like there's nothing like nothing else could be right except this tarot reading. And it's like that's unhealthy whether you're using AI or an actual person. That's an unhealthy mindset to have anyway. Um, so it's definitely not a threat to me as a tarot reader. It's not a threat to anybody else who uses tarot in their life. Um, if it's anything, it would be the tool. Um, that said, on that first part of the question of like, how do I feel about AI generated tarot readings? If you can't tell, I think it's kind of stupid. Um, I think it would be really good for if you're trying to learn and you're trying to get an example, or if you're trying to understand what tarot is or how it might work, then using an AI and say like, okay, prompt it to be in the role of a tarot reader and do a tarot reading. That could be a really great way, especially if you have any fears around tarot. If you have concerns about what an ethical versus a non-ethical tarot reader. Or things of that nature, then yeah, AI generated tarot readers can be a great learning tool or a great way to be exposed to it without, pushing up on those kinds of fears. But if what you're looking for is like an actual authentic tarot reading, yeah, this is again why I say it's not a threat to tarot readers at all, um, because the AI is just incapable of the full set of skills that are involved in actual tarot reading. Um, so I'm just I sit back and I laugh about it like I do most technologies that people jump into and jump on and they get all into it. I laugh. I can't help myself. And if you want to tinker with it, tinker with it. But at the end of the day, you're definitely going to realize that going to an actual person is always going to be better, and it's always better to go with somebody who resonates with you, and actually has a background that can help support you. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into the next question. And it's kind of again the questions I decided to focus on today, kind of running the same basic theme. So this one is: Are Instagram, TikTok, witch culture helping or hurting spiritual practice? Uh, Hurting. I would definitely go with hurting. I Now that said, let me put it this way: it's not helping. There we go. That's the full honest answer. It's not helping. And part of the reason I say this is when it comes to, first of all, Instagram, it's all about photos. It's all about pictures. So people are going to share the things that are most aesthetic, the things that are going to be the most like engaging, and those are going to get all the likes, and the algorithm's going to keep showing that to you. Meanwhile, if you have something that's like real and authentic and it's not aesthetically pleasing, that's not going to get shared with you. So then it creates this sort of um, perception for somebody who is new to it or exploring it to think like this is what it has to look like or this is what it's supposed to be. If it's not this way, then it's wrong. And that's not true at all. That is just the algorithm showing you the most aesthetically pleasing thing it can. And then, of course, TikTok, as we all know, oh my God, some of the things that come out of TikTok, I I'm going to use a non-witch culture example because I want you to. So, for those of you out there who still think that TikTok is a great platform for learning, this is not to say that there aren't accurate videos out there on any topic, because there are real educators and there are real professionals, real experts who use TikTok as their platform. So I'm not saying that you can't find real things there. That said, what you personally come across when you are on TikTok is not necessarily going to be that high quality educational content that you can trust. So, for example, we were teaching. I had it was one of the classes where I had a co-teacher, um, or I was a co-teacher in the classroom with one of the earth science teachers. So you had two earth science teachers in a classroom, and we got to the unit about plate tectonics theory. And for those of you who don't know, plate tectonics theory is basically how the different layers of the earth, so you have your crust, you have your mantle, you have your core, and core has more than one part to it. But in the most basic sense, the crust itself moves around. Okay, and part of that has to do with the convection currents from the heat of the mantle versus the significantly much cooler crust. If the surface of the earth ever got even close to the temperature of the mantle, which is molten rock, so it's a solid. The mantle is solid, people. It is not liquid. Those are not liquid rocks. They're liquid like because they have been so superheated that they can flow. So that's the level of hot, that it's literally melting rocks. Okay. If the surface of the earth were that hot, we'd all be dead. Okay. So that means that the crust is significantly a different temperature compared to that mantle. So that creates that convection between that hot and that cold temperature difference. Okay. We see this with our weather. This is where we get storms and all these other things. So it's super basic. You can experiment with that stuff in your kitchen if you wanted to. The way hot and cold temperature things come together. Okay, don't go doing safety first. Whatever you do, safety first. That's why I'm not giving specific examples. Okay, so that crust moves and the plates shift, right? Okay, so if you don't know plate tectonics theory, if you've never heard of it, if you haven't studied that, if your science teacher completely failed that, or you for whatever reason didn't have earth science, which is depressing in and of itself, you should definitely know the science of the planet on which you live. Planetary science is kind of necessary to understand the world around you, which is the whole point of learning science. Um, but I digress. With the plate tectonics theory, if you don't know, if you missed that lesson, go find some YouTube videos. There's tons and tons and tons of science resources on YouTube. If you don't know which ones to trust, reach out to me. I will give them to you. There are plenty of really good ones out there. And this topic is so basic, fundamental. It's easy to find. Anyway, the reason I'm bringing up this, we were learning plate tectonics theory, and the question about Pangea came up. And a student looked at me, and she looked at the other teacher, and she kept looking between the two of us, and she was just like, Pangea didn't break up because of the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs, right? And I was like, did that come from TikTok? She's like, yeah. Okay, so TikTok literally had a video in it that was teaching young people that the asteroid that slammed into the earth that ultimately resulted in the mass deaths of the dinosaurs, which essentially allowed mammals to be able to become the dominant, instead of reptilian creatures being dominant across the earth, the mammals ended up being more dominant across the earth. And that was because of this major catalytic event. And while it did lots of damage, and I'm sure it set off earthquakes, I'm sure there was some movement of the plate tectonics going on. I'm sure there was. You can definitely make that argument. But this video had convinced young people that prior to that, we had Pangea. And then immediately afterward, all the continents magically shifted into the positions that they currently are. I kid you not. For those of you who actually paid attention in class and know and understand what platonic theory is, even the most basic level knows that that is phony, which is why we were on day one just introducing that, and she was able to make that connection before we even got into the lesson. She just, right from the start, was like, that video couldn't have been right. And that's because it wasn't. So the reason I bring up this example is it's very clear of like how you will be provided information on TikTok where this is your entry point to it, and it can be very wrong, even if it's well intentioned, even if it's entertaining. If it's entertaining, it will get all the likes. Somebody watched that video, thought it was hilarious, and liked and shared it because it was hilarious to them. And then kids who hadn't gone through that basic education yet watch that as their introduction to the topic and think that's what it is. Okay. Same thing happens with witch culture. Okay. So when we have, like, with Instagram teaching us like this is what it has to look like, no, it doesn't. Those just the picture perfect versions. Okay. And they're not all picture perfect. And even if it is picture perfect, sometimes it's just staged. Sometimes you get people who make beautiful, elaborate, but they don't know the first basic thing of raising energy or setting intentions, even. Like they're still trying to figure out what they even want, let alone being able to set the intention to actually get what they want. Okay. So in the same way that the Insta photos does not teach you witch culture, the TikTok videos can send you down that same kind of incorrect rabbit hole. I remember back in, I think it was like around 2020 or somewhere in there, we were all laughing because there were people talking about hexing the moon and weird nonsense, and it was like this big TikTok like thing. No idea what that was about. I still to this day I'm just like, that's the dumbest thing ever. I've heard people say like there's actually a basis of where it came from, but what ended up on TikTok was still not that. um anyway, so the point is, if you're asking me if the Instagram and TikTok witch culture is helping or hurting spiritual practices, the 100% accurate response is it's not helping. It is not helping. If anything, it is muddying the waters even more than it already was before we had social media. Um, and in many cases, I do see it actually causing harm. I do see young people and even adults who are just new to these topics and these spiritual practices who jump onto these. The algorithm feeds them one thing and then feeds them more, and none of it steers them in a direction toward accurate information. And so that is hurtful. That is hurting when it's not steering you in the correct direction. Um, the algorithms are not designed to say like, oh, you're trying to learn about this topic. You're trying to understand this topic. Here, let me recommend you some reliable and credible resources and videos to help you with that. The algorithm just knows, hey, a lot of people like and share this. And so if you're interested in this one, here's a similar one that a lot of people have liked and shared too. And it just knows what's popular, not necessarily what's accurate. So in that case, it's hurting because now you are creating new generations of people who believe that this is what it is without giving them the information they need to learn otherwise. Um, Now, that to say, if we kind of span out and try to think about this in the long term, it might not necessarily be hurting that much. Like perhaps new spiritual traditions that are adjacent to witch culture and other witchcraft spiritual practices is born of it. Um, so it might not all be harmful. So this is why I say the accurate answer is that it's not helping. I personally feel like it's hurting, but we can honestly say it's just not helping. It sets up unrealistic expectations and perpetuates false information just because it sounds good or sounds fun or sounds easy or sounds whatever. And it's true witch culture, those of us who have been in it, we know full well, yes, there's always a learning in the first couple of years where we're all, I think today they call it the baby witches. We used to call it like newbie and fluffy bunny and that kind of stuff. And it's that those first between like 1 and 3 or 4 years, depending on your speed of learning and how much time you have to dedicate to those practices. where we do make a lot of mistakes and we don't know what we don't know. And so that is part of the learning curve. Um, but with the Instagram and the TikTok witch culture, it's like there's no growth. It's like they get stuck in those first couple years phase and they don't get past it. Because to get past it means putting in real work. Like that first year of learning any sort of esoteric or occult practice, these are skills. So you learn like some basic foundation stuff in that first year that you then build on for decades to come. I'm still building like almost 3 decades into this, and I'm still building on what came before. That's why there's some things I could put down and I could pick it back up, but then there's other things where I'm like, "Ooh, I really need a refresher on this," because it's just based on what my personal trajectory was in these various skills. So with the TikTok and Insta culture, focusing it on aesthetics and trying to make it seem super simple and super easy, this is where it's not helping, is because it's not helping you to recognize what are those foundational skills to start with and build on. It's trying to be like, oh, you just do this thing and poof, you did it. Isn't it beautiful? You're such a good witch. And not how it works. Okay, but again, like I said, in the long term, who knows? Maybe it'll turn out to have opened many people up to the idea and helped in some way. Um, for those who this is their entry point. Maybe it's just a slow, much longer phase of that baby witch or fluffy bunny phase. Um, but yeah, it's Insta and TikTok as it currently stands is not helping witch culture at all. Um, all right. So another question. I think I've answered this question before, but I will go ahead and knock it out again. So is it ethical to charge for tarot readings, and why or why not? So obviously it's always ethical to charge for readings. We've talked before about, like if you wanted to barter with me, you could barter, right? Like that was the way we did these things. Um, bring a pot roast to the church to help the priest out or something, like there were ways to provide support. And then today with our capitalistic economy, um, money is what we use to exchange. That's that exchange of energy is through money. So naturally, charging for tarot readings is totally ethical of and by itself. That said, there can be unethical approaches. I talk all the time about the people who they don't hardly know anything about tarot and they think it's so easy. They start positioning themselves as a pro and then they start giving readings that like become future horror stories for when those clients come and see me and they tell me about this reading they had years ago and they relay to me the way this person talked to them and it's like, oh my god, that was so unethical. And that's just because they were missing the skill set to be a truly professional reader versus somebody who just happens to know a little bit about tarot and is doing a reading. Um, that said, if you're in those stages, it's not so much. I personally don't think you should be charging if you haven't reached a fully professional level. Um, I won't necessarily judge somebody who does for the fact that they're charging for the reading. It's usually the other aspects to it that I get a little judgy about. Um, that said, I really think those first few years of learning tarot and learning those skills on how to give readings for others, instead of charging, it should be more of exchange. So perhaps partnering up with somebody else who's learning tarot or another divinatory method and doing readings for each other. Um, maybe this kind of goes into another question I'm going to ask later, but like sometimes I see people doing readings for free on like social media, like on Blue Sky. Sometimes they'll be like, "Hey, comment your question, and I'll pull a card for you." Those are all really great ways to be able to practice those skills without charging. And I think that's a great way to practice. I think it's a great way to expose people to what tarot is and how it works. And those you shouldn't necessarily charge for. Um, but again, I don't necessarily judge people for the charging of tarot readings. It's the other nuances. Like going back to our first question about the AI generated tarot readings. Did you actually, if you're sending me an email or PDF of a tarot reading, did you actually do that tarot reading? Or did you have the AI do that tarot reading? Now we get into an ethical thing. Because if it was the AI that you had do that tarot reading, that would be unethical to charge for that, right? So again, charging for the tarot readings, if you are authentically giving a tarot reading, that is ethical. There are nuances where we get into the unethical territory. But I know we've answered this question before, so I'm not going to dive any deeper than that. But if you have more questions, you can check out the older videos, or you can reach out to me, and I'm happy to dive a little deeper into that. All right. So where was I? Do want to go ahead and there we go. Okay, so this was that question. It's a little bit different than what I was just referencing, but it's kind of along those lines. So this one is about collective readings. So do collective readings on social media actually work? So this isn't one where you have somebody saying like, hey, send me a message or comment for a card. This is a card of the day or today's tarot reading, and it's put out there to the general social media platform, like to whoever sees it. If you see this, it was meant for you kind of crowd, right? Um, the best way for me to explain my thoughts on the accuracy of those is it's kind of like the basic horoscopes that you would see. It used to be like in newspapers. Nowadays, I guess it would be like in emails or something. And they're based on like the 12 sun signs and like find your sun sign. And there's like this little like 2-second blurb about what your day is going to be like, right? Or your week, depending on if it was a daily or weekly horoscope. And those could be fun. They could be interesting. They're based on something. So there's something to it that is real. But in that terms of does it actually work? Well, just like with astrology, you 2-second blurb for a whole of a sun sign. There's a reason why every astrologer out there who's doing those daily or weekly um, horoscopes for newspapers, journals, magazines, whatever. There's a reason why each of those are different, and it's because, well, which system of astrology were they using? Uh, which date time stamps were they using? Um, Meanwhile, each of us as individuals, we have our own specific natal charts based on our uh, date, location, and time of birth, and the snapshot of the sky at that time. And then when you put that data with whatever the current moment is, it changes things. And there's transits that happen, especially like with a weekly horoscope. There's transits that are going to be happening throughout that week. And the way it affects you, like, so I'm a Pisces. So if you're also a Pisces, the way it affects me, those transits might not be the same way it affects you. So do those horoscopes work? Well, they're going to work for somebody, but it's not going to be universal because it is not a one size fits all. Um, and so the same thing with the collective readings on social media. They are they are going to work similar to that. Are they coming from something? Yes. Are they all made up? No, or at least typically not. Like I'm sure there's somebody out there that's their con, I'm sure, but um for the most part, you can rest assured the tarot readers doing collective readings, they they are doing it authentically. Um, that said, I used to follow so on Blue Sky. I used to follow the Tarot Sky channel. I don't anymore, mainly because I don't know if it's even still around, but mainly because was literally like every single tarot reader on the platform would use that hashtag. So like you'd go to that feed and it was literally like everybody's card of the day, reading of the day, and I would bust up laughing because none of them would be the same card. None of them would be thematically the same. They'd all be different. And now their messages were all something. And I'm sure for their specific audience that they're speaking to, it's going to resonate with them. But if you're like this one person who's not part of their audience and you're just looking at this whole feed full of different readers talking to their various different audiences, one of those might be for you. So in terms of do they actually work, I don't put a lot of stock in them because I think of it just like those horoscopes. So like, can they be fun? Sure. I have been known to like some of them, if only because the cards were really pretty, or I really appreciated the interpretation of a particular card, and the way that the reader worded it. So there's different ways to approach it. But if you're like, oh yeah, I have to look at the daily card from that one reader that I follow. If that's your thing, go for it. Just know it's just like opening up the newspaper and looking at that one sentence blurb for your sun sign. It's not likely to be accurate in the same way it would be if you were to go and get your one-on-one reading with that tarot reader. Okay. All right. So that's, again, that's the disclaimer. That is my personal feelings on the matter. Best way I know how to explain it. I know we're coming up on time and I do have to make sure that I stay conscious of the time. Are there any other questions? I did not answer that one. Yes, I answered those. Okay, so I'm just gonna do this one last question, unless anything comes up in the chat between now and when we wrap up. Only because I can answer it really quick. So what's something most people misunderstand about tarot readers? We are all different. We have different styles. We have different interpretations. We come with different lived experiences that help us to inform how we talk about things or how we approach certain subjects. We've had different training and educational backgrounds. How we came to tarot, our approach to tarot, our personal feelings about it, all of that can vary distinctly, from person to person. I talk all the time about how like tarot readers, like we sometimes talk to our cards, but we also talk to other inanimate objects. It's no different than that. It's not that we think that the cards are actually, an entity. That said, there are those who do believe that like our way of shuffling, our way of splitting the deck, our way of doing things and pulling the card, whether it comes out how we flip it, all these things. There are some who believe that that is influenced by external spiritual entities, whether that is through angels, spirit guides, ancestors, what have you. There are those who do literally believe that the cards have an involvement with non incarnated entities. But that's not everybody. That's not even the majority of tarot readers, right? So this goes back to what something most people misunderstand about tarot readers is that we're not all the same. Okay, this is why I say if you've had a tarot reading experience that either rubbed you the wrong way, left you feeling down, or you were just kind of like, oh, whatever. Whatever your thing in your experience, go get a reading from somebody else. Okay, try out a few different people. That said, don't be that guy that like calls up, the psychic hotlines and like every 5 minutes is talking to a different reader. Don't do that. But if a tarot reader's at an event, if you're walking through a metaphysical shop and they happen to have a reader there that day, pop in there, try it out. One of the reasons why when I do in-shop readings, I keep the prices super low. I always make sure to have at least one. It's usually my 3-card option that's like priced really low, and I usually offering on top of that to cut it even lower. And I do that specifically so those who like have had bad experiences have an opportunity to get a reading from somebody who will do it different. Okay, somebody whose approach and style is different than something that they've had before, or who've never had a tarot reading because they're terrified of tarot in general. If you already go in kind of scared or reserved about tarot and you have a really negative tarot reading experiences, you're probably never going to go near it again. So for me, like that's my opportunity to kind of help them ease out of the bad negative experience. Not every tarot reader will do that. But again, what most people misunderstand about tarot readers is that we are all different. We are not the same. Even with matters of ethics and integrity, like not every tarot reader shares the same values related to ethics and integrity that I do. When I recommend readers, they absolutely share um, that level of integrity and ethical practice, even if our own personal feelings on are a little different. Um, at least at the basic level, anyone I recommend is somebody who ethically I will trust to take care of you. Um, but there are many, many different tarot readers. We're not the same. That to me is the number one most misunderstood thing about tarot readers. We come in all shapes and sizes. We come from all kinds of background. We're not all woo woo. We're not all super sciency. So we're not all psych majors. We're not all, you know, religious. So we're all different. All right, so it is coming up on the end of the hour, so and I do need to wrap it up. I don't have any questions in the chat, so I'm going to go ahead and end us here. So let's get into our outro. Okay, so some updates. I talked about these at the beginning. My next public in-person tarot appearance is the Liberty Day fireworks. That's this Saturday at 6 p.m. It still says 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. on here. Again, because the initial information we were given was until 10 p.m. We just received our vendor information Friday, I believe it was, and it was saying until 9 p.m. So it's a little unclear to me if I can continue giving readings past that 9 p.m. mark, or if 9 p.m. is like final sale time. Normally they're very clear about when the final sale time is. It was not as clear this time, so I'm going to try to get some clarity. So until then, I'm probably going to keep saying until 10 p.m. But just know that it might be until 9 p.m. instead. That's when they kind of want you to go settle down and be ready for the fireworks. Oh, also with the Liberty Day pricing, currently this will be my last one with the super low pricing. I think I had to adjust the 3-card and 10-card reading prices for the September event. That's a public event. We're still doing the summer pricing for the in-shop readings, but for my pop-up pricing, that is going to be based on the cost of the events, and my fall events are definitely going to be more expensive because the cost of the space for me to be there is notably more expensive than the other events. So I will have to make sure that those prices are different. So make sure when you're looking at my upcoming events page, which the link should be in the show notes, make sure to check out what my tarot pricing will be for each individual event, because it's no longer going to be standardized across the board. It's going to be different for each event following this Liberty Day fireworks celebration, because the cost of vending is different for each event. All right. Moving on, the June blog post I did publish was the How to Choose a Spiritual Guide Part 1. These are those green flags or what to look for. If you haven't read it, please do. In August, I'll be releasing the second part, which will be about the red flags and what to watch out for. For the July blog post, I'll be posting that hopefully this week. As a military veteran and U.S. citizen, definitely want to make sure that I speak to obviously the Liberty Day, if you will, this 250th celebration. Most of us are not going to make it to, the 300th year. So I definitely want to make sure that I put my 2 cents on the topic out there amid the celebration. So that'll end up being what the July blog post is related to. And then we'll pick back up on the How to Choose a Spiritual Guide Part 2 in August. For the behind the scenes, yes, I am still pumping away with the Hella Story re-release. That I'm aiming for about mid-July is my goal. Over the next week, I want to say over the next week or two, I'll have the specific dates of when I'm going to re-release that and any special promotional information that you need to know about it. I'm also diligently working on my empowered readings course, and of course, those moment of empowerment videos. I did not get as many in June. I only posted the one in June. So this month I'll definitely try to get at least two in there. Let's see. So then I need my sources. Okay. Reminders as always. All the links are in the show notes below. You can subscribe to my newsletter. It's a monthly newsletter with exclusive content. It also helps you know where I'll be next. Any big important news you need to know. If there's any specials going on. All those details you can get by becoming a Moonbeam by subscribing to the newsletter. Um, you can also enroll in my Tarot 101 with Evylyn Rose. It's a free mini course for seekers and skeptics alike that just kind of gives you a nice introduction, gives you a really good idea of my personal approach and style with tarot, but it also is a really good kind of super basic jumping off point to find out if tarot is right for you. And then it also, when you enroll, it automatically subscribes you to the newsletter. So if you do only one of these two things, you could just enroll in the Tarot 101 and that'll get you both of those. Following me on Blue Sky, I am most active on follow me on social media. I am most active on Blue Sky and YouTube. And then finally, I am still looking for some feedback on what your workshop and learning needs are. I'm looking into doing some virtual events over the next few months. One of them is in August, and then there's some others later on in the year that I'm looking into getting involved in. So this is an opportunity to let me know what topics you are most interested in. So this isn't just for my paid offerings, educational offerings. This is also for those kinds of events. Some of them are, ticketed events. Some of them are free. So this is an opportunity to let me know what kinds of learning experiences you are looking for, whether they are live in person or virtual. So again, this link will be in the show notes. Make sure to follow that link and get your answers in. I'm going to be taking responses until the end of July. After that, the survey link will go defunct. So please make sure that you get your 2 cents in before that closes. And of course, the next live stream will be next Monday at 1 p.m. Make sure you submit your questions via email or social, or again, if you're here in the Delaware area and you see me around town, feel free to let me know. You can also subscribe to my channel is a great way to know when I go live. And then, as always, like and commenting below helps you and others find more videos like this. So please make sure to like the video. And comment, even if it's just a smiley face, just to let us know you're out there and you want us to keep going with these. And of course, as always, thank you so, so much for being here with me today, whether you were here live in person or watching the replay. By all means, I hope to see you again next week. You can always reach out to me via my website, social, email. Definitely stay in touch. And as always, keep radiating hope into the world.